reclaiming the sacred truths of Hinduism, the legacy of non-binaryism, non-duality, and the path to decolonization. To truly appreciate the richness of Hinduism's core teachings, it's important to recognize how the values and practices that once upheld the fabric of this spiritual tradition have been systematically obscured, distorted, and even demonized over centuries of colonization, conquest, and cultural imposition. The very essence of Hinduism, with its embrace of non-binaryism, gender fluidity, and non-duality, has been buried beneath layers of external dogma imposed by foreign powers who sought to strip it of its vitality and reduce it to something more controllable. Hinduism's core embrace of non-binaryism and non-duality. At its core, Hinduism is a religion and philosophy that inherently understands and honors the fluidity of existence. The sacred texts, deities, and philosophical teachings make it clear that the universe and everything within it is a dance of dynamic opposites that are interwoven into a unified whole. This is evident in the profound symbolism of Ardhanarishwara, the composite form of Shiva and Shakti, a deity who embodies both masculine and feminine aspects in one body, seamlessly intertwined. Ardhanarishwara is not just a divine figure. It is a profound metaphysical statement that illustrates the truth that gender, like all aspects of existence, is inherently fluid and non-binary. This concept of non-duality, the belief that all dualities are ultimately unified in the divine, is a cornerstone of Hindu thought. The Advaita Vedanta school, for instance, teaches that the ultimate reality is Brahman, an indivisible and infinite consciousness where distinctions of self and other, male and female, are transcended. Gender fluidity, therefore, is not a modern or progressive concept forced upon traditional thought, but rather an ancient truth that has always been embedded in the Hindu worldview. It acknowledges that the soul itself is beyond gender, embodying both masculine and feminine energies that must be harmonized for true spiritual growth and wholeness. This acceptance of non-binaryism is reflected not only in the gods and goddesses, but in the reverence for figures in Hindu epics and history who defy binary norms. From the androgynous Mohini, Vishnu's female avatar, to the various tales of deities and sages who transform their gender to fulfill divine purposes, Hinduism holds countless stories that celebrate the fluidity of identity as sacred and powerful. The obfuscation through colonization and cultural reconditioning. However, the essence of this truth has been diluted, distorted, and suppressed through centuries of colonization and cultural imposition. The invasions by foreign empires, particularly those driven by the sons of Abrahamic faiths, brought with them rigid, dualistic worldviews that conflicted sharply with the pluralistic and fluid philosophies of Hinduism. Over 1,000 years of Mughal rule, followed by the British colonial regime, sought not just to conquer the physical territories of India, but to reshape the minds and beliefs of its people. This period of colonization involved systematic attempts to dismantle the philosophical and cultural foundations of Hinduism. The Mughal Empire brought with it a patriarchal, binary understanding of gender and identity, influenced by Islamic teachings that often viewed non-conforming gender roles and fluid expressions as deviant. While the Mughals imposed their social structures, the British further solidified this suppression by embedding Victorian norms of gender and morality into the societal framework. The British were deeply uncomfortable with the androgynous deities, the Hijra communities, recognized as sacred in Hinduism, and the gender-fluid stories of Hindu law. They labeled these aspects as barbaric or backward and used them as justification for their civilizing mission in India. Over generations, this cultural and spiritual brainwashing eroded the collective memory of India's true legacy. What was once a society that honored fluidity, non-duality, and gender diversity became conditioned to see these aspects as shameful or morally wrong. This is the toxic legacy of colonization, the reconditioning of a society to view its own heritage through the eyes of the oppressor. Reclaiming our heritage, decolonizing the mindset. Today, there is an urgent need to decolonize the mindset that has been instilled over centuries. To truly liberate ourselves and reclaim the richness of our spiritual heritage, we must reconnect with the deep roots of Hindu philosophy and spirituality that celebrate the fluid, non-binary nature of existence. We must remember that gender fluidity, much like non-duality, is not an aberration but a reflection of the divine. The teachings of the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the countless stories of gods and mortals remind us that every soul is a manifestation of Brahman, unbound by gender or societal constructs. This reclamation is more than just a cultural or spiritual movement. It is an act of resistance against the ongoing demonization of non-binary and gender-fluid people, particularly by those who continue to uphold the legacies of Abrahamic dogma that paint these expressions as sinful or unnatural. In societies influenced by these rigid beliefs, there is a push to see anything that deviates from strict binaries as a threat to moral order. This has manifested in harmful laws, discrimination, and violence against those who live outside the binary. Decolonizing our mindset means challenging these narratives and reaffirming the truth that has always existed within Hinduism. It means celebrating Ardhanareshwara as the perfect embodiment of balance and wholeness, reminding us that the divine is not limited to one form or another, but is a dance of masculine and feminine, light and dark, movement and stillness. It is embracing the fact that fluidity, whether in gender, identity or thought, is the essence of life itself. Moving forward, reclaiming and protecting our children and society. It is time to reclaim these sacred truths, especially for the sake of future generations. The sons of Abraham, who have historically sought to suppress these expressions, continue to pose challenges to those who seek to live authentically in alignment with Hindu teachings of fluidity and unity. By educating ourselves and our children, we empower them to embrace the full spectrum of who they are without fear or shame. We remind them that in our heritage, the divine has always included all aspects of existence, both seen and unseen, both masculine and feminine. To stand against the demonization of our values is not just an act of resistance, but an act of reclamation, of remembering who we are as a people whose spiritual philosophy has always been centered on wholeness, balance, and the divine dance of opposites. In doing so, we don't just protect our children, we reclaim a truth that belongs to all of humanity, a truth that calls us back to a world where the sacred is in the balance, where gender and identity are fluid, and where the ultimate reality is non-dual, an interconnected we. Let us therefore return to our roots, embrace the teachings of Ardhanareshwara, reclaim the wisdom of non-duality, and reject the rigid binary thinking that has been imposed upon us. Let us honor the truth that in Hinduism, as in life, the dance between opposites is where the divine resides.